Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I am here to show you the last Pokémon VMAX we are ever going to see. Plus, Granbull V, because it's also been revealed, we need to look at it. I love Granbull, I want Granbull V to be good. It's weird loving Granbull, I used to hate Granbull. Me and Granbull, we got a bit of a thing going on. But first, we need to focus on Aggron VMAX. Now, I'm telling you that this is going to be the last VMAX we ever see, and I mean it. We have had actual confirmation, this is 100% confirmed, that in Brilliant Stars there will be 3 VMAXs. Mimikyu VMAX that we have previously seen, that one's coming in, or actually has been released now, in VMAX Climax. Kingler VMAX, which we know is coming in the 100 start decks in Japan. And Aggron VMAX, which, well, it's on the screen right now. We assumed it was coming in 100 start decks. That seemed like a very sensible prediction. And in a stunning twist nobody could possibly have predicted, yeah, it is. Cool. Lovely. The thing is, I expect these to be the very last VMAXs we ever see. Now, I've done a whole video about this, so I'm not going to go into huge detail today. But basically, the Japanese set Starbirth, I am not expecting to have any VMAXs, because we're bringing in V-Star. And it doesn't really make sense to have your free prize VMAXs that are evolving from Pokémon V, at the same time as your 2 prize V-Star that are evolving from Pokémon V. You bring one in at the expense of the other. I think that is a perfectly sensible prediction to make. And yes, fine, our equivalent of Starbirth is Brilliant Stars, but we're not getting VMAXs from Starbirth, we're getting them from VMAX Climax and the 100 start decks. So frankly, ladies and gentlemen, strap in. This is the last new VMAX we are ever going to see, and I feel pretty good about that prediction. As always, shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet for providing our translations and moral support at 2 AM when I was trying to buy stuff on the Pokemon Center online. So Aggron VMAX here, we got 330 HP, which is huge, that is high for a VMAX. Retreat cost to 4 is huge. Weakness to fire is a bit of an issue because Victini's still a thing. And Victini still sees a bunch of play, and actually Victini's going to love this. This is going to be something Victini's very, very happy about. And you got a resistance to grass for whatever that's worth. But of course, being a metal Pokemon means you've got Bronzong to move energy around. It means you've got things like Metal Saucer to accelerate energy. So you know what? It's not a bad time to be a metal Pokemon. You're not really hitting much for weakness, which is a little bit sad. But there are certainly things to like about being a metal Pokemon at the moment. What does it do? Well, 1 metal, 2 colorless energy, 150, and discard 1 card from the top of your opponent's deck. And my problem with this is that it does 2 things, and it's kind of not going wholeheartedly into either of them. Sure, 150 damage is nice, but you're not hitting the numbers you need to. We talked about this many times before, 180. 180 is a number at which we start getting key multiple prize KOs. That's where we're getting stuff like Crobat V and Kricketune. So if I'm only hitting 150, that's not enough damage. Sure, I'm discarding 1 card on the top of my opponent's deck, and that's lovely and all of that, but it's 1 card. And sure, there will be games where that 1 card makes them deck out. And sure, there will be games where my opponent hits the absolute worst possible card, they lose a card they desperately need to carry on the game, and they end up actually losing because I managed to mill the 1 card which took my opponent out of the game. These things will happen, but they're going to be very few and far between. Frankly, it's just not enough. It's not bad per se, there's just nothing particularly good about it. As for the second attack, 2 metal, 3 colorless energy, 270 damage, plus it does 30 to itself. And again, here it's just a bit meh. Like, don't get me wrong, 270 damage is a nice amount of damage, but actually what are you getting? Sure, you're getting Pokemon V, and that's lovely, but there's plenty of other Pokemon that can KO Pokemon V without using 5 energy. I mentioned Victini earlier. Victini can generally get whoever you want for 2. Well, there's a little bit of a difference there, ladies and gentlemen. So frankly, if I'm going after 2 prize Pokemon V, I don't want to be using this attack. I want to be going after VMAXs. Problem is, 5 energy, 270, what VMAX you getting? You know, Victini's another good example. It's a low HP Pokemon VMAX. And actually, it's still got 310, so you're miles away. And that's my problem. The self-damage is a bit of a pain. It's not the end of the world. It's slightly annoying. But it's not the self-damage which is getting me here. What's getting me here is the fact that it's not enough damage. It's way too expensive to be an attack that KOs Pokemon V, but it doesn't do enough damage to KO Pokemon VMAX. So we're left asking ourselves, well, what does this attack actually do? And what it basically does is make us spend way too much money for something that isn't at the end of the day going to be good enough. I mean, we've got a very similar attack on Steelix. Steelix V, 5 energy. You know, this is 1 metal, 4 colourless rather than 2 metal, 3 colourless, but very similar. And it does 210 and 30 to itself. Well, okay, fine, you need to do 220 a lot of the time. But if you whack a Vitality Band on there, then you're KOing pretty much any relevant Pokemon V. You're a 2-prizer, not a 3-prizer. You're only losing 80 HP. And there's an argument that Steelix is a slightly better option here. Which should be slightly terrifying, because if you follow the competitive Pokemon trading card game even a little bit, you'll know that Steelix is not a particularly good playable competitive card. It's just not out there. So basically, the first attack doesn't do enough damage or mill enough, and the second attack is too expensive to KO Pokemon V and too weak to KO Pokemon VMAX, and we're left with a card which is unfortunately aggressively meh. Sorry. But hey, maybe Granbull. Maybe Granbull can do it, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe Granbull can do it. Well, here we got 210 HP, which is about right. Yeah, that'll do. Weakness to metal's not terrible nowadays. You're a psychic Pokemon, so you're hitting a good weakness against things like the Urshifu VMAX. So, you know, you're off to a decent start, which is quite nice. Do we have any good attacks? Well, we got 2 colourless energy, 30 damage, plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. No. Now, if it did 30 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, that's an outrage attack. That's something I can get behind. But it doesn't. So, if you are right on the verge of being KO'd, if you've got 200 damage on you, 10 HP remaining about to go down, and bearing in mind, right, in a format with stuff like Inteleon, there is absolutely no way you're going to survive like that for more than a couple of seconds. You're then doing 230, which to be fair is enough to KO Pokemon V, which is lovely, but that's asking too much. It's too awkward. I like that it's colourless energy. I like that we can use any energy acceleration we like. That's kind of nice. But really, ladies and gentlemen, this is not something I can, in good conscience, really recommend. It's an outrage attack in a format, and again, in a format with lots of damage counter dropping with things like Inteleon, outrage attacks become way, way worse because your opponent can play around it so much more easily. And you need to get so close to being KO'd just to be able to do decent damage. It's not worth it. And then it's weirdly similar to Aggron. Free energy, 190, and you do 30 to yourself. Now here, 190 is a better amount of damage. You get Crobat, you get Kricketune, you get the Urshifu if you're hitting for weakness. So there are some reasons to like this. But firstly, the 30 self damage is not ideal. The free energy is not ideal. And don't get me wrong, right? We got plenty of ways to accelerate energy. Shadow Rider Calyrex remains a decent option. And if you're playing something like Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, if you're playing a kind of psychic deck, this is a decent attack for free energy on a 2-prize Pokemon. Not loving the self-damage, but especially if you're hitting for weakness, this could be good. My big reservation here is that if you're not hitting for weakness, you're not getting Pokemon V. And that makes me sad. Very sad. 190 is not enough. So there we go. Another Pokemon which probably isn't quite enough. I do quite like Granbull as a 2-prize attacker in a deck that's accelerating psychic energy, but the fact that it can't get one-hit KOs on most Pokemon V really holds it back. Of course, I told you we were getting Granbull V, and it wasn't some kind of amazing prediction. This was the image we were consistently showing from the 100 start decks, and all of those Pokemon either had Pokemon V or got them in here. So Drampa, that's one I showed you the other day, which is now coming in the 100 start decks. That is absolutely confirmed. Morpeko Hangry form has since been shown, so we know we're getting that. We haven't had a great look at it, but we've seen it. We've seen enough to know what it does. Obviously, I mentioned Kingler VMAX earlier, so Granbull was always going to get a Pokémon V, and now it's a little bit sad because although there are Pokemon there like Sylveon and Galarian Moltres that haven't had new Pokemon V in the 100 start decks, compare that with, for instance, Pikachu and Zamazenta, who actually totally have. They've had new Pokemon V in the 100 start decks that are different to the ones before. But unfortunately, I don't think we can rely on any of these others coming out. The good news is Brilliant Stars is not that far away, and all these new ones are going to be coming there, and that's rather lovely. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you think about this. I want to know if either of these Pokemon fill your heart with joy, or whether you think they're just a little bit disappointing. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.